If a decade ago someone told me Arabs of the Persian Gulf would meet an extremist Prime Minister of Israel, and that Prime Minister would fly over Saudi Arabia to visit the region whilst Palestine is still occupied, I would have told them to get lost. But it's happening.
I'm finishing a good visit here in the United Arab Emirates. I want to thank His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed for very warm hospitality throughout this visit. Throughout the day we had meaningful, in-depth and straightforward talks about our two nations, about the region, and about our economy and technology and what we can do together. I'm flying back to Israel very optimistic that this relationship can set an example of how we can make peace here in the Middle East.
The United Arab Emirates welcomed Naftali Bennett as the first Israeli Prime Minister since the signing of the normalization agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates in mid-September 2020 during the era of former US President Donald Trump. During his visit, Bennett met with the Emirati Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed and the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed. Israel's main purpose behind the visit is to discuss ways of joint cooperation between Israel and the United Arab Emirates in the economic and commercial fields. However, the Israeli ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, Amir Hayek, revealed to Israeli media that the Iranian threat was also discussed between Bennett and Bin Zayed. The newspaper Israel Hayom also said, quoting an unnamed Israeli official, that the Israeli Prime Minister Bennett will share secret intelligence information with Bin Zayed regarding armed factions supported by Iran and the drones it provides in the region. Bennett's visit was timely. Bennett's visit to the United Arab Emirates came at a time when talks are underway in Vienna between Iran and world powers in an attempt to revive the Iranian nuclear agreement that the regime of former US President Donald Trump ripped into shreds. Bennett's visit to the United Arab Emirates is quite strategic. Israel wants to disrupt the Iranian Emirati rapprochement and probably even stop it permanently. The United Arab Emirates is witnessing rapprochement and openness to a number of countries, especially Iran, Syria and Turkey. And this sort of obstruction serves the Israeli policy in the region, one to keep the Muslim world divided, confused and absolutely weak. Israel wants Arabs to take shelter under the Israeli camp through fears of Iran achieving nuclear weapons. Israel also has great ambitions to continue to promote its products, including military weapons, aircrafts and other technologies in these countries, considering that, from an Israeli point of view, it's merely a consumer market for it and its military products. Israel doesn't really care about the Arabs. We see what they're doing to the Palestinians, but rich Arabs are useful as Israel can sell to them and make money. And it's not just one-sided. These Arabs are also ready to embrace Israel. They actively welcome Israeli influence. United Arab Emirates' sudden shift in foreign policies clearly shows that they are concerned about their positions in Yemen and Libya. Arabs who have funded wars and actively paid radicals out there have suffered in terms of not just money, but also in terms of their reputation. And due to this, they feel Israel can save the day. There's also lack of certainty about America's role in the region. After all, America has pulled out of Afghanistan and they can easily pull out from all these other regions that these Arabs are involved in. So Arabs can't trust the Americans, and for now, their messiah, their savior, their Mahdi, if you want to call it, is Israel. There'll be further normalization. I'm expecting Saudi Arabia to have some sort of dialogue, at least by the end of next year. Israel will maintain its relations with these countries and continue to develop with further Arab nations by demonizing Iran and using Iran as an excuse to sell Israeli weapons and technology to the Arabs of the Persian Gulf. You see, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the Arabs of the Persian Gulf have only just used the Muslim world for their global wars. In reality, these leaders don't really care about you. It's just about money. The Saudi, the UAE, and even the Qatari sheikhs who recruited fools to go out there to Syria were paid around $500 per Muslim. That's all it costs. Today the game's over, and these Arab leaders of the Persian Gulf have another game. They are only thinking about their future and longevity. That's all.